Once upon a time, there was a fair-skinned girl named Chiamaka. She had soft brown eyes and small hands that used to help her mother fry puff-puff by the roadside. Chiamaka was only 17, but life had already been hard on her. Her hair was always tied back in a simple scarf, and her school uniform, before she stopped going to school, was always neatly washed, even though it had holes at the elbows. She used to smile a lot, especially when her mother teased her about the boys who passed by the stall and looked twice. "One day, my daughter will marry a good man," her mother always said. But that was before everything changed. It all happened too fast. Her mother had been coughing for a while, but they didn't have money to go to the hospital. One day, the coughing got worse, and by nightfall, her mother's eyes stopped moving. Chiamaka had screamed and shaken her, but her mother was already cold. They buried her in a simple grave behind the small wooden house they lived in. Not long after, people came and took the house away too. It turned out her mother had borrowed money from a local woman who charged high interest. Chiamaka was left with nothing but a small bag of clothes and a faded photo of her and her mother smiling in front of their puff-puff stand. She tried to stay with some neighbors, but everyone said they couldn't help for long. They had their own families to feed. She slept on benches, in markets, and sometimes beside food sellers who allowed her to sit close and sweep their shops in the morning. One rainy afternoon, as she sat near a shop entrance shivering in her thin blouse, a black car stopped in front of her. A man in a fine brown suit stepped out and walked toward her. He was bald with shiny skin and wore dark glasses even though the sky was gray. "You are Chiamaka, right?" the man asked, looking her over. She nodded slowly. "Yes, who are you?" "My name is Mr. Jide," he said. "I work for Chief Ikechukwa. He saw you last week by the roadside." Chiamaka frowned. "Chief who?" Mr. Jide smiled without showing his teeth. "Chief Ikechukwa, a very rich man. He helps people like you. He wants to see you." "Why?" she asked, her stomach already tight with fear. Mr. Jide looked serious. "Because he wants to change your life." She followed him, not because she trusted him, but because her legs were tired and her stomach was empty. She sat in the back seat of the black car and stared out of the window the whole way. They drove for more than an hour until they reached a tall black gate guarded by two men with walkie-talkies. Inside the compound, everything looked shiny and clean. The flowers were neatly trimmed, and the driveway was wide enough to fit 4 cars. But the air was thick with a strange smell. Something sour and heavy, like old sweat mixed with burnt oil. Chiamaka tried not to breathe through her nose. They led her into a large house where the floors were made of white tiles that shone like glass. At the center of the room was a staircase that curled like a snake. 2 chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the walls were filled with gold-framed pictures. Mr. Jide guided her to a chair and said, "Wait here. He'll be down shortly." She sat quietly, her hands shaking. She heard the sound of heavy feet thudding above her, and then, step by step, he came down. Chief Ikechukwa was not like any man she had ever seen. He was big. Not just big, but massive. His stomach pushed out like a sack of Gary tied too tight. His cheeks were full and shiny with sweat, and his neck looked like it had folded over itself. His white kaftan was soaked around the armpits and back, and as he walked closer, the smell grew stronger. So strong Chiamaka had to press her legs together to stop them from shaking. He smiled wide, showing brown teeth. "So this is the beautiful Chiamaka," he said, voice deep like drums in a shrine. She stood and bowed her head slightly. "Good afternoon, sir." He moved closer. "I have seen you. I like you, and I want to marry you." Her heart stopped for a moment. "Sir, marry me." "Yes," he said. "I'm not asking. I'm telling you. You need help. I will give you a roof, food, clothes, everything. All I want is your hand in marriage." Chiamaka looked down. She didn't know what to say. She wanted to run. But where would she run to? The market bench? The cold floor behind Mama Tope's stall? "I'm 17, she said quietly. "I know," Chief Ikechukwa replied. "I will take care of everything. You will not suffer again. Ever." She swallowed hard. "Can I think about it?" You have until tomorrow morning, he said. But if you leave this compound, my offer ends. And you may never eat again. He turned and walked away, his wide back moving like jelly under his soaked clothes. The smell lingered behind him, like something rotten that refused to die. That night, they gave her a room to sleep in. It was bigger than her entire house with her mother. The bed had silk sheets and big soft pillows. A maid brought her hot jollof rice and fried chicken. Another brought new clothes in gold and purple. But even as she ate and bathed, her chest felt heavy. In the morning, she stood before Chief Ichukwa in a gold dress and nodded. I accept. His face lit up. He laughed loud, his body shaking with each sound. Good girl. You will never regret this. They married that afternoon in a small room with just a pastor, Mr. Jide, and 2 other men. Chiamaka didn't smile. She only looked at the floor and prayed quietly in her heart. After the ceremony, they returned to the mansion, and he leaned close to her, pressing a wet kiss on her forehead. The heat from his body made her want to faint. You are mine now, he whispered. That night, she was taken to a golden suite upstairs. Her room had a soft rug, a giant mirror, and a bathtub as big as a small pool. But the happiness the room was supposed to bring never reached her heart. As she lay on the bed, she noticed the curtains were drawn and the windows shut tight. The air felt heavy. The same smell that had followed him earlier now filled the room, even though he wasn't there. She turned on her side, pulling the silk blanket over her body, but sleep wouldn't come. She closed her eyes and thought of her mother's voice. Chiamaka, be strong. Life is full of tests. Just before sleep finally came, she heard a knock at the door. It opened slightly and a maid poked her head in. He says good night, madam, the girl said, voice low and eyes wide like she was afraid. Okay, Chiamaka whispered. Thank you. When the door closed, the room went quiet again. But the smell stayed. And that was how Chiamaka became the wife of a man she didn't love. A man whose sweat was thicker than oil and whose smile sent shivers through her skin. She thought she had seen the worst life could give. But the real horror had not even begun. Chiamaka woke up feeling like she had been trapped inside a dream she didn't ask for. The soft silk bed felt strange. It was too smooth, too quiet, too clean. And the smell, that heavy, sour smell was still floating in the air. It had soaked into the curtains, the pillows, the very walls. She rubbed her eyes and sat up slowly. The window was still shut. The giant mirror across the room showed her reflection. Messy hair, puffy eyes, and a tired face that didn't look like a bride. She had never felt so lonely in her life. There was a soft knock at the door. Madam, your breakfast, a voice said. It was a young maid, maybe just a few years older than Chiamaka. She came in with a tray of fried plantain, scrambled eggs, and hot tea. Chiamaka forced a small smile. Thank you. The maid placed the tray down and started to leave quickly, but Chiamaka stopped her. Wait, what's your name? The girl looked around nervously, then whispered, Ngozi. Do you live here? Ngozi nodded. Yes, madam. Chiamaka stared at her for a moment. Why do you look scared? Ngozi looked down. Her fingers twisted around the edge of her apron. Nothing, madam. I should go. Please, Chiamaka said, voice lower. You don't have to call me madam. I just want to talk. Ngozi hesitated, then slowly walked back in and stood by the edge of the bed. Chiamaka leaned closer. Is it true what people say? That he doesn't bathe? Ngozi didn't answer right away. Her eyes darted to the door like she expected someone to be listening. After a long pause, she whispered, It's not just that. It's a rule. A rule? Chiamaka asked. Ngozi nodded again. He says if he touches water, something bad will happen. Nobody really understands. We just follow the rules. Chiamaka felt a cold feeling in her chest. But doesn't he feel dirty? He says the smell is part of his power, and anyone who questions it disappears. Chiamaka's hands gripped the blanket tighter. Disappears. Ngozi's lips trembled, but she didn't say more. She looked down and started walking away again. "Wait," Chiamaka called. "Please. Just one more thing. Why me? Why did he choose me?" Ngozi paused at the door, then whispered, "You're not the first girl to enter this house. But you might be the last." Then she left. Chiamaka didn't touch the food. Her stomach turned as her mind raced. What did she mean by not the first? Were there other girls? Where were they now? That evening, a servant came to tell her the chief wanted her to eat dinner with him in the main dining room. She didn't want to go, but refusing didn't seem like an option. She changed into a blue dress and walked slowly down the long hallway. The air grew thicker with every step. That same sour, sticky smell followed her. It was stronger near the stairs. By the time she reached the dining hall, she was already holding her breath. Ikechukwu was sitting at the head of a long wooden table, wearing a red agbada that looked like it had never been washed. His armpits were soaked, and his face glistened with sweat. He smiled wide when he saw her. "Come in, my wife. Come and eat with me." Chiamaka forced her legs to move forward. She sat at the far end of the table, but even that wasn't far enough to escape the smell. Large dishes of meat, jollof rice, stew, and fried fish sat in front of them. Ikechukwu picked up a drumstick with his bare hand and started chewing loudly. Chiamaka touched her spoon but couldn't eat. "Why aren't you eating?" he asked, food bits sticking to his beard. "I'm not hungry," she replied softly. He laughed. "Ah, you'll get used to this house. It's just day one." She looked down at her plate. "Can I ask a question?" "Anything," he said, licking his fingers. "Why me? Why did you want to marry me?" He leaned back and wiped his hand on the edge of the tablecloth. "Because you're quiet, soft, simple. You don't ask too many questions." Chiamaka's heart beat faster. He continued, "You've seen suffering. Girls who've seen pain are easier to manage." She looked up at him, shocked. He smiled wider. "And you're beautiful, my dear. A good wife should know her place and enjoy her blessings." She swallowed hard and stood up. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I want to rest," she said quickly. He waved his hand. "Go. But remember, tomorrow you'll be by my side all day. I want the whole house to see my queen." She walked out fast, only breathing properly when she reached the staircase. Her eyes burned with tears, but she didn't let them fall. She returned to her room and locked the door. She sat on the bed for a long time, hugging her knees and staring at nothing. The next morning, she walked through the mansion slowly. There were so many hallways, doors, and large paintings of Ikechukwu wearing different traditional clothes. Some had him holding staffs, others with politicians and pastors. But one thing was strange. As she passed a hallway on the second floor, a strong wave of his smell hit her face, much stronger than anywhere else. She paused. The hallway was quiet. At the end of it was a large wooden door with golden handles. Beside it stood two tall guards in black suits. They didn't smile. They didn't blink. She walked past quickly, but her heart was racing. That evening, she asked Ngozi again. "What's behind that door upstairs?" she whispered when they were alone. Ngozi looked around nervously. "You saw it?" "Yes. What's inside?" Ngozi shook her head. "We're not allowed to ask. Nobody talks about that place." "But why does it smell so bad near it?" Ngozi whispered, "That's where the smell comes from. It's always strongest there." Chiamaka's mind was filled with questions, but nobody seemed willing to answer. The maids and servants avoided her now. They bowed and left fast. Even Mr. Jide didn't look her in the eye anymore. On the third day, Ikechukwu insisted she sit beside him during a dinner with guests. 5 men in big clothes came and laughed loudly while eating and drinking. They praised the chief and called him Power Man. One even said, "Your smell is still strong, boss. That's how we know your money is safe." They all laughed, except Chiamaka. She forced a smile and looked down at her plate. After the guests left, she asked quietly, "Why did he say your smell means your money is safe?" Ikechukwu looked at her and said, "Because the smell is part of the covenant." She didn't understand. What covenant? He smiled again. One day, you'll know. That night, she heard something. It was almost midnight. The house was quiet, but her ears picked up a sound like footsteps, followed by low voices, and then something else. A soft crying. It wasn't near her room. It sounded far, maybe below the floor. She opened her door and stepped out. The hallway was dark except for a small lamp by the stairs. She tiptoed toward it, trying not to make noise. The sound was clearer now, children crying, followed by a deep chant, like someone repeating the same words over and over. She held her breath. Her hands shook. Just then, a maid appeared behind her. "What are you doing here?" the maid whispered sharply. Chiamaka turned quickly. "Did you hear that?" The maid grabbed her arm. "Don't ask. Don't go there. Go back to bed. Now." Chiamaka obeyed, but the crying stayed in her ears, even after she returned to her bed. The next day, she walked past the strange hallway again. She didn't look at the guards this time, but she noticed something else. Next to the door, there was a wooden cabinet. It had a small gap under it. As she passed, something shiny caught her eye. She bent down and saw the cabinet wasn't fully closed. She pulled it open slightly and gasped. Inside were shoes. Dozens of them. But they weren't adult shoes. They were small, tiny. Shoes that could only belong to children. Some looked new. Others were dirty. A few had dried stains. She stepped back, heart pounding. "What is this?" she whispered to herself. She pushed the door shut and hurried away. Her hands were cold. Her breath came fast. She didn't know what to think. Later that day, she checked the curtains in her room again. That was when she found it. Something hard was tucked behind the thick curtain, something metallic. She reached in and pulled out a key. It was old, bronze-colored, and heavy. There were strange markings on it. She didn't know what it opened, but she had a feeling it was important. That evening, she saw Aichukwa again. He came to her room, smiling. "Soon, you will understand," he said. She stood still, saying nothing. He turned to leave but looked back and added, "On the 5th day, everything becomes clear." She nodded slowly, her heart heavy. That night, she couldn't sleep. She looked at the key again. Then she whispered to herself, "Day 5. I'm going to find out what's going on in this house. No matter what." She placed the key under her pillow, curled up in a ball, and waited for the sun to rise. The night before the 5th day felt like the longest night of Chiamaka's life. She lay still on the soft bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. She didn't blink much. She didn't move. Her hands stayed tightly wrapped around the bronze key she had hidden under her pillow. It was cold and heavy in her palm. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw children's shoes. Rows of them. Small ones, dirty ones, bloody ones. And she remembered the crying. The soft, heartbreaking crying she heard from deep inside the house. There was something inside that mansion. Something terrible. And she had made a decision. When the clock reached midnight, she was going to find it. The house was too quiet. Even the usual rustling of servants moving through the hallways had stopped. It was like the entire mansion was holding its breath. Chiamaka waited. She counted in her head. She listened to the ticking of the small gold clock on the bedside table. When it struck 12, she sat up slowly. Her heart was pounding so loud she was afraid someone would hear it. She wore a dark wrapper and a long-sleeved blouse and tied her hair back tight. She didn't want anything to get in her way. She opened the drawer and took the lantern she had hidden 2 nights ago. She didn't know if light would be needed, but she didn't want to enter darkness unprepared. Then she took the key and slipped it into her pocket. She opened her door slowly, quietly, without making a sound. The hallway was empty. She tiptoed out, moving carefully, watching every corner. The lights were dim, only one bulb on at the end of the hall. Her shadow followed her on the wall, thin and long. As she moved past the stairs and toward the hallway where the strong smell came from, her chest began to tighten. She could smell it already. It was stronger than ever. Thick, rotten, like dead animals mixed with old sweat. The kind of smell that felt like it was crawling into her nose and sitting there. But she didn't turn back. She reached the wooden cabinet where the children's shoes were kept. The guards who always stood there were gone. Her hands shook as she reached for the golden-handled door. It didn't move. She took the key from her pocket and pushed it into the lock. Click. It fit. The door creaked open. The smell hit her so hard she almost fell back. She covered her nose with her wrapper and forced herself inside. The hallway beyond the door was long and cold. The walls were stone, not painted like the rest of the house. There were old pictures on the wall, but they weren't normal pictures. They looked like ancient drawings, painted people kneeling before something that looked like a big altar. Her stomach turned. She raised the lantern and moved forward. The floor was dusty, but she saw footprints, fresh ones, leading down. They looked big and deep, and beside them, smaller prints, tiny ones. She followed the path. After what felt like forever, she reached a staircase leading underground. The steps were made of stone. The lantern light flickered against the walls as she went down. The deeper she went, the colder it got. And the smell got worse. It smelled like blood. It smelled like fear. It smelled like something that should never exist in this world. At the bottom of the stairs, the hallway opened into a wide chamber. The room was huge, like a small church built underground. The floor was made of black stone, and the walls had more drawings. But these ones showed things that made Chiamaka freeze. A fat man, holding a knife. Children kneeling in front of him. Gold raining from the sky. She took a step forward. Her foot slipped on something wet. She looked down. It was a trail of blood. Her breath caught in her throat. At the center of the chamber, there was a giant flat stone table. It was stained dark red. A wooden altar stood behind it, covered in bones, feathers, and melted candles. Around the room, bound to pillars with chains, were children. Some were crying softly. Some had their eyes closed like they had given up. All of them looked tired, hungry, and scared. Chiamaka gasped. She stepped back, knocking over a metal bowl that clanged across the floor. The children flinched. Then, a voice echoed through the room. "Welcome, my bride." She turned slowly. There he was. Chief Ikechukwu. He was wearing nothing but a robe made of animal skins. His large belly stuck out in front of him, shiny with sweat. His arms were painted with strange white symbols, and his feet were bare. He stood behind the altar, holding a curved knife in one hand and a small golden bowl in the other. Chiamaka couldn't move. "I was hoping you'd come," he said, smiling wide. "They always do. The fifth day always calls them." "What is this?" she asked, her voice shaking. He laughed. "This is the place of power. This is where everything begins." Her eyes filled with tears. You sacrifice children." "I don't sacrifice," he said calmly. "I offer. I give. And in return, I receive." "Receive what?" she shouted. "Money? Fame? Is that why you smell like this?" He took a step forward. "The smell is my strength. My sign. It keeps the blessings flowing. As long as water never touches my skin, as long as blood touches this altar, I will never lack." "You're a monster." "No," he said. "I'm a king. And you were chosen to be my queen. But now you've seen too much." He raised the knife. The children began to scream. Chiamaka grabbed the lantern and held it high. "Don't come near me." "You think you can stop me?" he roared, his voice shaking the walls. "I won't let you hurt them." He walked around the altar, breathing heavily, knife raised. "You are mine, Chiamaka. Your pain is mine. Your fear is mine. You belong to me now." She looked around, searching for anything to fight back. And then she saw it. A small torch, burning low on the wall. She rushed to it and pulled it out. He charged toward her, shouting strange words, knife still in hand. Chiamaka took a deep breath and threw the torch. It flew through the air and landed on the wooden altar. The flames caught instantly. The dry feathers, cloth, and bones burst into fire. Smoke filled the room. "No!" Aichukwa screamed. Chiamaka ran to the children. She yanked at their chains, trying to free them. The fire grew larger. The fat man roared in anger and came toward her again. She picked up a metal bar from the floor and swung it at his wrist. It hit his hand hard, breaking something. The golden talisman on his wrist, shaped like a skull, snapped and fell to the ground. Aichukwa screamed louder than ever before. His body shook. His skin began to crack. His belly sagged. His breath came in short, painful gasps. The covenant was breaking. Chiamaka ran to the last child and pulled him free. "Come on, we have to go." The children gathered around her, holding hands, crying but ready to run. Aichukwa fell to his knees, screaming, "No, no, I still have more. I still have time." But it was over. The fire reached the ceiling. The chamber shook. Chiamaka led the children up the stairs, back into the hallway, and toward freedom. And she never looked back. Smoke rose behind her like dark clouds from a burning bush. The flames from the altar licked the stone ceiling and swallowed the shadows. But Chiamaka didn't stop to look. She grabbed the smallest child by the hand and shouted to the rest, "Run! Run now!" The children, some barefoot and others still crying, obeyed without a word. Their eyes were wide with fear, but they followed her as fast as their legs could move. Behind them, Chief Aichukwa roared like a wounded animal. "You cannot leave. You belong to me," he bellowed. Chiamaka didn't turn. She couldn't. If she looked back, she might freeze. She focused on the stone steps ahead, climbing them two at a time. The air was thick. Every breath tasted like smoke and blood. The children coughed as they climbed. One little boy tripped on the steps, but Chiamaka picked him up without slowing down. "You're okay," she whispered. "We're getting out." From the bottom of the stairs, Aichukwa's voice thundered again. "The fire means nothing. I still have my knife. I still have my power." Then came the sound of something crashing, wood breaking, chains snapping, walls shaking. The fire wasn't just burning the altar. It was tearing down everything holding that dark chamber together. When Chiamaka and the children reached the top of the steps, the hallway was darker than before. The lanterns on the walls had gone out. Smoke was pouring in from the doorway. She turned to the children. "Stay close to me. Don't let go." They ran down the hallway, the same one she had entered through earlier, but now the air was different. Hot. Sharp. The mansion that had once been cold and quiet now felt alive, like it was angry. Paintings on the walls were melting. Gold frames bent under the heat. That awful smell of sweat and death was now mixed with the scent of burning cloth and old wood. They reached the golden-handled door. It was still open. "Go through," Chiamaka shouted, pushing the first child out. As they entered the main part of the mansion again, flames had already reached the thick carpet of the second-floor hallway. Curtains were burning. Smoke twisted through the air like black snakes. Suddenly, from behind them, a loud thud shook the floor. Aichukwa had climbed out. He stood at the top of the staircase, his skin shining with sweat, his robe half-burnt. His hands were black with ash, and his eyes looked like fire. "You broke my altar," he screamed, voice hoarse and broken. "You shattered the covenant. You ruined everything." Chiamaka pulled the children close. "Keep going," she yelled. "Don't stop for anything." They ran past the melted painting of Aichukwa shaking hands with the governor. They passed broken vases and burning chairs. The mansion that once looked like a palace now looked like a place the devil himself had built. But the worst part was hearing him behind them. His feet slapped the marble floor with wet sounds. Heavy, angry steps. His knife scraped the wall as he dragged it along. It made a high, sharp sound that pierced their ears. "You can't run from me, Chiamaka," he roared. "I married you. You're mine by blood." "Not anymore," she said under her breath. "Not ever again." They reached the grand staircase, and she led the children down one step at a time, helping the smaller ones. Suddenly, Aichukwa appeared at the top of the stairs. His whole body was shaking. His kaftan was torn. His chest was heaving. "You think you're saving them?" he shouted. You think fire can stop me? I've survived worse. He began to come down, one slow, stomping step after the other. The children screamed. Chiamaka's eyes scanned the space around her. Then she saw it, another torch on the wall. Still lit, still burning. She ran to it, grabbed it, and held it out in front of her. Stay back, she warned. I'll burn this whole place if I have to. He laughed. You won't. You're too soft. You were always weak. That's why I picked you. She didn't answer. Her eyes never left his face. Then, with her free hand, she reached for something lying beside a fallen table, his broken talisman. The small gold skull. The one she had smashed in the basement. She picked it up and held it out. This is what gave you power, right? She shouted. His face twisted in anger. Don't touch that. She raised it over her head. Let us go, or I'll crush it completely. He froze. Even with the fire all around, even with his breath coming out in huffs, he paused. That talisman connects me to the wealth, to the covenant, he said. Destroy it and everything dies with it. Chiamaka gripped it tighter. You mean everything evil dies with it? She brought her foot down hard. Crack. The skull split under her heel. Ikechukwu let out a scream that sounded like a wounded lion. His knees buckled, and he fell, slamming against the stair rail. No, he cried, voice breaking. The children began to cry harder, but they followed Chiamaka as she led them down the last steps. Ikechukwu tried to rise again. His skin was pale now, like all the blood had left his body. His belly hung lower, and his hands trembled. You've killed me, he whispered. No, Chiamaka said. You killed yourself. A long time ago. With the torch in one hand and the children holding the other, she moved quickly toward the main hallway. The mansion's front doors were at the end of the hall. Smoke blocked the path, but she remembered the way. Everything was on fire now. The gold rugs, the tall curtains, the marble floor had cracks. A chandelier above them groaned as it loosened. We're almost there. Chiamaka shouted. The children coughed and pushed forward, tears rolling down their faces. One girl tripped and screamed. Chiamaka turned back, scooped her up, and kept going. Behind them, Ikechukwu was crawling now. His knife had dropped. His robe was burning. His hands reached out weakly. Please, please. I don't want to die poor, he mumbled. Chiamaka didn't turn. She reached the giant doors. She grabbed the lock. Still locked. No, she whispered. No, no. She reached into her pocket. Her fingers touched the cold metal. Ikechukwu's master key. She pulled it out with shaking hands, fit it into the lock, and turned. Click. The doors groaned open. Cool air rushed in, pushing the smoke back. Dawn light spilled through the opening like hope. Go, she shouted. The children ran into the open compound. The sun was just rising, casting gold light on everything. She turned back one last time. At the far end of the burning hallway, she saw him, Chief Ikechukwu. He had slumped against the wall, his body slouched and melting with sweat. His eyes were wide, but empty. The fire was crawling toward him, slow but sure. Chiamaka stepped outside, carrying the last child in her arms. The mansion groaned, and with a loud crack, the roof of the hallway collapsed behind her. She ran down the steps, out into the street, where neighbors were already gathering, shocked and speechless. People screamed. Phones came out. Someone called the fire service. But all Chiamaka could do was sit on the ground, holding the smallest boy in her arms, watching as smoke poured from the mansion like black rain. A woman ran up to her. What happened? What is going on in that house? Chiamaka looked up, her eyes tired, her voice soft but steady. A secret burned. That's what happened. And for the first time in many days, the air didn't smell like him anymore. Chiamaka sat on the rough ground outside the mansion with the smallest boy still in her arms. The sky had already started turning blue and gold, like a fresh painting. The sun was peeking out slowly, and the early morning wind felt like a soft hand brushing her face. Smoke curled behind her like long fingers reaching for something they couldn't catch. The great black mansion that once stood proud and shiny now looked weak and broken. Flames pushed through the upstairs windows, and parts of the roof were already gone. Loud cracking sounds echoed as more of the building gave way to the fire. People gathered on the street. Neighbors, fruit sellers, boda riders, men in wrappers, women holding babies. Everyone stared at the burning house with open mouths. Some people gasped. Others whispered. But no one came close. They all looked scared. Maybe it was the fire. Maybe it was the truth their eyes didn't want to see. Chiamaka slowly stood up. Her body ached all over. Her arms were tired. Her feet felt like they were made of stone. But she didn't care. She looked at the children. All of them stood near her, their eyes red from smoke, their clothes torn and dirty. One boy wiped his nose and asked softly, "Are we safe now?" Chiamaka turned to him and nodded. "Yes, we're safe now. We're not going back in there." The girl standing beside him looked up at the burning mansion. Will the fire kill him? Chiamaka paused, staring at the flames. "I don't know, but I know he can't hurt anyone anymore." A woman stepped forward from the crowd. She wore a yellow wrapper and had a big bowl of bananas balanced on her head. "Where did these children come from?" she asked. "What's going on here?" Chiamaka looked at the woman. They were locked inside. He was going to hurt them. "Who?" the woman asked, her face twisting in confusion. "Chief Ikechukwu." Chiamaka nodded slowly. "He's not who you think he is." Another man from the crowd shouted, "But he gives people money. He built a school. He feeds widows every Christmas." Chiamaka turned to the crowd. "He gave you rice and beans outside, but inside that house, he was killing children." Gasps filled the air. A man in a white t-shirt raised his phone and started recording. Chiamaka saw the red light blinking. She didn't care anymore. "He never bathed because of a ritual," she continued. "He made a covenant. The smell, it wasn't just sweat. It was part of something dark, something evil." More phones came out. People were filming her, filming the children. "He married me to kill me next," she said. "I was supposed to be his next offering." The crowd began to murmur louder now. Some people started crying. Some stared at the mansion like it was no longer real. Then came the sound of sirens. A big red fire truck screeched to a stop in front of the gate. Firefighters jumped out, carrying hoses and shouting to each other. Another white van followed behind, an ambulance. Then came a third car, a police van. Uniformed officers stepped out, looking around in confusion. One of them walked up to Chiamaka. "What happened here?" the officer asked. Before she could answer, one of the banana sellers shouted, "She saved children from the fire. The man in that house was killing them." The officer turned to Chiamaka. "Is that true?" Chiamaka nodded. "Yes." "Where are the children now?" She stepped aside and pointed. The children stood behind her, some hugging each other, others just staring. The officer looked at them for a long time, then pulled out a small radio and began speaking in quick words. Chiamaka turned to one of the firemen. "Please, don't go downstairs inside the house. There's something evil down there." The man paused. "We have to make sure no one else is inside." "There are no more people," she said quickly. "Only ashes. Only pain." Another officer walked up. He had a pen and notebook in his hand. "We'll need a statement from you, young lady. What's your name?" "Chiamaka," she answered. "I'm 17. The officer's eyes softened. "Where are your parents?" She looked down. "My mother is dead. I don't have anyone else." He paused, then gently asked, "And these children? Did you know them before?" "No," she said. "I found them in the basement. He kept them there, tied up." The officer looked stunned. "We'll take you all to the station for now. You need food, water, and rest. Then we'll hear everything." Chiamaka nodded. The police brought a small bus and helped the children inside. One by one, they climbed in, tired and quiet. A nurse checked their arms, gave them water, and tried to smile at them. Chiamaka sat near the door, still holding the smallest boy on her lap. As the bus pulled away, she looked out the window. The mansion was now half gone. Flames still danced through the top floor. The gold windows had melted into black shapes. Smoke curled up into the sky like a warning. She closed her eyes. In her mind, she saw his face again, twisted with rage. His belly shaking with each step. His voice screaming through the fire. "You are mine by blood." But he was wrong. She didn't belong to him. Not anymore. They arrived at the police station by mid-morning. The officers brought food, soft bread, boiled eggs, and sachets of water. The children ate slowly. Some fell asleep with food still in their hands. Chiamaka didn't eat. She just sat with her arms around them. 2 female officers came over and spoke to her gently. They asked questions. She answered as best as she could. "How long were you in that house?" "5 days." "Did he touch you?" "No. He never touched me like that. He just waited." "Waited for what?" "The 5th day. That was always the day he used for the ritual." "And you say he never bathed?" "No. Not once. The smell, it was part of the covenant." The officer wrote everything down. Later that afternoon, a woman from a children's protection group came to the station. She brought fresh clothes for the kids and small snacks. She sat with Chiamaka. "I'm Auntie Ronk," the woman said. "I help girls like you. You're very brave." Chiamaka looked at her. "What happens to the children now?" "They'll be safe. We'll take them to a shelter for now. They'll see doctors, get food, then maybe foster homes later." Chiamaka looked down. "Can I stay with them?" Auntie Ronk paused. "You care about them a lot. They were going to die. I can't just leave them now." The woman smiled gently. "We'll see what we can do. But first, you need rest." Chiamaka nodded slowly. That night, they gave her a small room at the station to sleep in. It wasn't fancy, just a small bed and a clean blanket. But it felt safer than the golden sheets in the mansion ever did. She lay down and stared at the ceiling. The sound of children crying echoed in her memory. So did the fire. So did his voice. "You ruined everything." She closed her eyes and whispered, "Good." The next morning, everything changed. The news had spread. Every channel was talking about the mansion, about the fire, about the billionaire who never bathed. They showed pictures of Aichukwa at charity events, wearing large agbadas and smiling beside politicians. Then they showed photos of the burnt mansion. The videos of Chiamaka's speech outside the gate went viral. People called her a hero. Some didn't believe her. Others did. But everyone was talking. At the shelter, the children were now eating better. Doctors checked their wounds. Nurses gave them toys. Auntie Ronk told Chiamaka she would stay there for a while too. "You need healing," she said. "You've seen too much." Chiamaka didn't argue. She helped bathe the younger kids. She folded clothes. She told bedtime stories. She stayed close to them. One evening, a small girl sat beside her and whispered, "You smell nice." Chiamaka smiled. "Thank you." The girl asked, "Will he come back?" "No," Chiamaka said softly. "He's gone." The girl nodded, leaned on her, and fell asleep. Chiamaka looked out the window. The sky was pink and quiet. She whispered to herself, "I will make sure no other girl ever suffers the way I did. Not while I'm still alive." And that was how Chiamaka began her new life. Not as a wife, not as a victim, but as someone who escaped darkness and walked straight into the light. Chiamaka woke up early again, just before the sun touched the windows. The shelter was still quiet. The children were still sleeping, curled up under their blankets. A few of them had rolled off their beds, arms spread wide like they were dreaming of open fields. She sat up slowly, her body still sore in places. Her shoulder ached. Her legs were stiff, but her mind was calm. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she had control. She stood and walked barefoot across the cool floor. The hallway outside was dim. A soft breeze came through the broken window in the kitchen. It smelled like fresh bread, clean air, and peace. She didn't miss the mansion. Not even for 1 second. Auntie Ronk found her in the kitchen, washing plates that weren't even hers. "You're awake too early again," the woman said gently. "I couldn't sleep," Chiamaka replied. "You need to rest." "I rested enough. I just wanted to do something useful." Auntie Ronk smiled and sat down. "You've already done more than most people do in their whole life." Chiamaka didn't respond. She stared at her fingers as she scrubbed a plastic spoon. "I saw the news again this morning," Auntie Ronk continued. "More people are speaking out. Another girl said she used to work in Chief Aikchukwa's house. She said she always heard footsteps at night. She was scared to say anything." Chiamaka dropped the spoon into the bowl of water and looked up. How many people knew and stayed quiet? "I think many suspected, but no one wanted to believe it. He gave them food. He gave them money. He wore big clothes and smiled wide in public. But his smell," Chiamaka whispered. Auntie Ronk nodded. "Yes, that smell followed him everywhere. It was his curse and his pride." Chiamaka sighed. People ignored it. They joked about it. They laughed behind his back. But no one asked why. Because they were afraid of what the answer might be. Chiamaka wiped her hands with a towel. "Well, now the truth is out." "Yes," Auntie Ronk said softly. "Because of you." Later that afternoon, reporters came to the shelter. They didn't bring cameras this time. Just notebooks and voice recorders. One of them, a young woman named Tola, sat across from Chiamaka in the office. "I'm not here to ask stupid questions," she said. "I just want to understand." Chiamaka looked at her carefully. "Understand what? Why you went downstairs that night? Why you didn't run away?" Chiamaka folded her arms. "I wanted to run. From the first day I entered that house, I wanted to run. But where would I go? Back to the streets? Back to sleeping behind shops?" Tola nodded slowly. "I saw that door," Chiamaka continued. "The one with the golden handles. I smelled the evil inside it. I saw the shoes. Tiny shoes. Bloody ones. I heard crying. Every night." "So what made you open the door that night?" Chiamaka paused. Then she said, "Because if I didn't open it, I knew I was going to die next." Silence filled the room for a moment. Tola asked, "What do you want now? After all this?" Chiamaka looked at her without blinking. "I want to help people who are suffering. I want to talk to girls like me. Tell them not to stay silent. I want the world to stop looking at rich men like they are gods." Tola clicked her pen. "Thank you, Chiamaka. I promise to write this truthfully." The shelter was different now. After the story went viral, donations started coming in. Boxes of clothes, food, even books. The children had new mattresses, new toys, better meals. Doctors and counselors visited every week. But the best part for Chiamaka was that the children had started to laugh again. She watched them one morning as they chased each other outside, their legs flying across the grass. Their voices filled the air like music. "Tag, you're it," one boy shouted, tapping another on the back. "No, you missed me." The other laughed and ran off. Chiamaka smiled. It was a real smile this time, not forced or tired. It came from deep inside her. Then she heard a voice behind her. "You're doing well." She turned around. It was Auntie Ronk, holding 2 cups of Zobo. "You think so?" Chiamaka asked, taking one. "I know so. These kids adore you. You give them hope. I just want them to feel safe." "They do," the woman said, sipping her drink. "Because you're here." They sat on a bench together, watching the children play. After a while, Auntie Ronk said, "There's something I want to show you." Inside the office, she handed Chiamaka a file. It had her name written on the front. "What's this?" Chiamaka asked. "An offer. A real one." Chiamaka opened the file. Inside was a letter from a government agency. It talked about placing her in a youth support program. There was training, school sponsorship, even a small allowance. They want to help you finish your education, Auntie Ronk explained. Then maybe, later, you can come back and work with children. Chiamaka touched the paper gently. This is real. Yes, you've been through fire. Now it's time to rise. Chiamaka's eyes filled with tears. But, what about them? She asked, pointing to the playground. They'll be fine. We'll look after them. And you're not leaving forever. You're growing. That's what you're supposed to do. That night, she sat with the children during dinner. One of the boys, the same one she had carried from the basement, looked up at her. Are you going somewhere? He asked, his mouth full of rice. Chiamaka smiled gently. For a little while. But I'll be back. Promise. She held out her pinky. Promise. He linked his small finger with hers. After dinner, she tucked the kids into bed one by one. She kissed their foreheads, told them good night. When she got to the smallest boy, he was already asleep. His thumb was in his mouth, and his toy car clutched tightly in his hand. She sat beside him for a long time, just watching him breathe. Then she whispered, "You're safe now. You're safe because we made it out." The next morning, she packed her things, a small bag with a few clothes, her diary, and a pair of sandals someone had donated. She didn't carry much. She had already left her past behind in the fire. As she stepped outside, the sun touched her skin warmly. Children waved at her from the windows. Auntie Ronk hugged her tight. "You'll be great," she said. Chiamaka whispered, "Thank you for believing me." She walked toward the bus that would take her to the city. A new chapter, a fresh start. But as she stepped onto the bus, something made her turn around. She looked up at the sky, and for a moment, she thought she smelled him again. That awful smell of sweat, blood, and greed. She clenched her jaw. Not fear this time. Anger. Determination. Then she whispered, "You were rich, but I survived you. That's what the world will remember." The city was loud, crowded, and full of movement. Cars honked. People shouted. Sellers called out the names of fruits and snacks. Buses coughed out black smoke and zoomed past each other like they were chasing time. Chiamaka sat by the window of the government bus, watching the buildings pass. Her small bag was on her lap. Her eyes stayed wide open, but her mind was far away. She was thinking about the children she had left behind at the shelter. She was thinking about the boy who held her pinky and made her promise she would come back. But more than anything, she was thinking about the mansion, the fire, and the face of the man who said she belonged to him. Aichikwa's voice still echoed in her head sometimes, like it was trapped inside a drum. His last scream, his heavy footsteps, his knife scraping the wall. She had escaped him, but his smell, that smell still clung to her memory like old dust. She didn't cry. She just breathed in and out, reminding herself she was not going back. She was not trapped anymore. The bus stopped in front of a long white building with a blue gate. The sign outside read, Youth Empowerment Center, Lagos State. The gate opened, and a woman in a blue gown smiled as Chiamaka stepped out. "Welcome," the woman said. "You must be Chiamaka." "Yes, Ma," she replied. "My name is Mrs. Bintu. I'll be your mentor here." Chiamaka followed her inside. The building was clean and bright. Teenagers filled the hallway, laughing and talking. Some wore uniforms. Others wore t-shirts with bold words like Dream Big and Future Builder. "You'll start orientation tomorrow," Mrs. Bintu explained as they walked. "For now, let me show you your room." The room was small but neat. A bed, a desk, a window. Everything smelled fresh. Not like perfume. Not like wealth. Just clean air. Chiamaka set her bag down and sat on the bed. Mrs. Bintu watched her. "You'll be okay here. I know what you've been through." Chiamaka looked up. "Have you seen someone like him before?" The woman's face turned serious. "Yes. Not in the same way. But I've seen people who hide behind money. Behind big names. People who hurt and think no one will stop them. Chiamaka nodded slowly. I want to stop people like him. Mrs. Bintu smiled again. You already started. Rest for now. We begin tomorrow. The next day, Chiamaka entered her first class. It wasn't like normal school. There were no big chalkboards or bells. The classes were small. The teachers spoke softly. Everyone was treated with kindness. They taught skills, sewing, baking, writing, and even public speaking. That last one made Chiamaka nervous. The teacher was a tall man with glasses. He smiled a lot. Today, he said, we are going to learn how to share our truth. Because our voices are more powerful than we think. Chiamaka sat in the second row. She didn't say a word. Not even when others stood up and told small stories about their life. When it was her turn, she shook her head. Maybe next time, the teacher said kindly. That night, she wrote in her diary, I want to speak, but I still smell him in my mind. I want my voice to be strong again. 2 weeks passed. One afternoon, after class, Mrs. Bintu came to her room with a paper in her hand. There's something you should see. She handed Chiamaka the paper. It was a news article. Burned billionaire's secrets still unfolding. The story spoke about the mansion again, but this time, it mentioned something new. Sources claim the late Chief Ikechukwu had ties to a secret network of wealthy individuals involved in ritual activities. Investigations are ongoing. Chiamaka's eyes widened. She looked at Mrs. Bintu. There are others like him. Mrs. Bintu nodded slowly. It seems so. Chiamaka stood up. Her chest rose and fell quickly. They're still out there. Yes. Still hurting people. Yes. I need to talk. I need people to hear me. I can't keep quiet anymore. Mrs. Bintu smiled. Then let's prepare your voice. Over the next few days, Chiamaka trained hard. She practiced standing in front of small groups. She learned to tell her story without shaking. She learned how to look people in the eyes. She cried sometimes after class, but she never quit. Soon, people began to invite her to talk. At schools, at churches, even on a radio station. Her voice was quiet at first, but it grew stronger with each word. She said things like, being poor doesn't mean you deserve pain. Silence helps evil grow. Don't be silent. They called him a giver, but he was a taker of life. Each time she spoke, someone in the crowd would cry. Each time she spoke, someone would come forward and say, it happened to me too. One evening, after her talk at a youth church, a tall man in a brown suit walked up to her. I'm from a group that works with survivors like you, he said. We have women's homes across Nigeria. We'd like you to join us. What do you want me to do? Train others. Help victims speak. Help them heal. Chiamaka paused. Will I still be able to visit the children at the shelter? He smiled. As much as you like. She accepted the offer. She moved into a small flat owned by the women's group. She had her own room, her own bed, a desk with her name on it. She wore new clothes now, simple but clean. And she had a new role. Now, when girls came in with fear in their eyes, she was the one who held their hands. She was the one who said, I know what it feels like. And when they asked her, did you survive? She always replied, yes. And so will you. Months passed. Then one day, her phone rang. It was Auntie Ronk. I have news, the woman said. What is it? Chiamaka asked. They're holding a big event next week. Survivors Speak 2025. They want you to give the closing talk. Chiamaka's heart skipped. Me? Yes, you. Big people will be there. Very big people. But your voice is bigger. The night of the event came. The hall was packed. Women in bright gowns. Men in fine suits. Cameras. Lights. Journalists. Chiamaka stood backstage, heart beating fast. She wore a plain blue dress and tied her hair in a bun. Nothing flashy. Just herself. Her name was called. She stepped out, blinking into the lights. The crowd clapped. She walked slowly to the microphone and took a deep breath. Then she spoke. "My name is Chiamaka. I'm 17 years old, and I was married to a man whose smell could kill." The crowd went still. He was rich, powerful. People said he was kind. But inside his house, he kept children locked in chains. He married girls like me to feed a covenant, to protect his money. People gasped. But I survived. I escaped. I burned his altar. I broke his chain. Her voice grew louder. "And now, I'm here to tell you that silence is dangerous. Respect without questions is dangerous. Wealth without truth is dangerous." The whole room leaned forward. "I speak now not just for myself, but for every girl still trapped, for every child still hidden, for every secret still covered in perfume and gold." She paused. Then she said softly, "My name is Chiamaka, and I am not afraid anymore." The hall stood. People clapped. Some cried. Some shouted her name. Chiamaka stepped back and looked up at the lights. And for the first time, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. She felt strong. She felt free. After Chiamaka's speech, the hall stayed quiet for a moment. Then came a wave of clapping. Loud, strong, full of meaning. People stood up from their chairs. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others just looked at her like they were seeing something more than a girl. They were seeing a fighter. Chiamaka didn't smile. Not yet. She stood still on the stage, breathing in and out. The lights above her were bright, but not as bright as the feeling inside her chest. For the first time in her life, she felt like her voice had changed something. Not just in the room, but in the world. She walked off the stage, her heart still beating fast. Auntie Ronk was waiting backstage with open arms. "You did it, my daughter," she said, pulling her close. "You gave them truth. You gave them fire." Chiamaka held her tight. "I was scared, but I kept thinking of the children. I didn't want to waste the chance." "You didn't waste it," Auntie Ronk said. "You opened a door. A very big one." A few minutes later, reporters came, one by one. "Chiamaka, how does it feel to speak to the nation? Do you feel safe now? Will you be writing a book?" She answered them slowly, carefully. "I feel brave. Not safe yet, but braver. I speak not because I'm not scared. I speak because I don't want to live in fear again." Then she added, "This story is not about me. It's about the children still trapped in shadows." The next morning, her photo was everywhere. The newspapers said, "Girl who faced the fire speaks for the voiceless." From bride to fighter, Chiamaka's story lights up the nation. Online, people started using a hashtag, #NeverSilentAgain. But even as people praised her, Chiamaka knew her journey wasn't over. Something inside her told her there was one more thing she had to do before she could truly move forward. She had to go back. Not to stay. Just to see. Just once. To the place where it all began. A few days later, she took a car down to the outskirts of town. She sat in the back seat, arms folded, lips pressed tight. The driver glanced at her through the mirror. "You sure you want to go back there, madam?" "I have to," she said. When the car stopped, she stepped out slowly. She stood in front of what used to be the mansion. There was nothing there now. Just black ground, burned walls, and ashes where golden carpets and glass doors once stood. The gate had fallen. The flowers were gone. Even the big fountain at the center was broken and dry. She walked carefully across the cracked tiles. Each step brought a memory. The thick smell. The whispers in the hallway. The hidden shoes. The knife. The screaming. She walked until she reached the spot where the front door used to be. It was now just burnt earth. She knelt there and touched the ground. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "You don't win. Not even in death." She stood up, turned around, and walked away without looking back. Weeks passed. She returned to her work with more strength. She visited shelters, talked to girls, helped them understand that pain was not their fault. That silence should never be normal. One day, a letter came. It was from the government. They were giving her an award for bravery in the face of evil. The letter invited her to a ceremony. The president's wife would be there. Big leaders, celebrities, activists. Chiamaka stared at the paper. "I don't need awards," she said softly. "But it's not just for you," Auntie Ronk told her. "It's for every girl watching you, to see that survivors are not forgotten." Chiamaka nodded. "Then I'll go." At the ceremony, she wore a white gown and tied her hair in a blue scarf. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't try to look perfect. She just wanted to be herself. When they called her name, the crowd clapped. She walked to the stage and received a glass trophy with her name on it. Her hands shook a little. When she stepped to the microphone, she spoke slowly. "I didn't ask to be a hero. I just wanted to live. I just wanted peace." The hall was silent, but life threw me into fire, and I had to choose. Stay quiet and die slowly, or scream until someone heard me. She looked at the front row, where a row of young girls were watching her. "You heard me, and now I hope you never stop hearing others too." After the ceremony, people came up to her. Some hugged her. Some just said, "Thank you." One woman handed her a small paper. "My niece disappeared 2 years ago. After your story came out, I think she may have been taken like those children." Chiamaka's heart sank. "Have you gone to the police?" "They said she probably ran away. But now, I know something is wrong." Chiamaka took the paper. "I'll help. I'll speak for her." And just like that, a new mission began. Soon, Chiamaka started working with a real team: lawyers, doctors, social workers. She helped find missing children, helped get girls out of forced marriages, helped shut down fake homes used for evil. Her face was now known across the country, but she never changed. She still ate on plastic plates, still tied her scarf, still visited the shelter once a week. One Saturday, she sat outside under a mango tree at the shelter. The boy who once held her pinky was now taller. He sat beside her and asked, "Do you still dream of him?" Chiamaka nodded. "Sometimes." "What do you see?" "I see the fire. I see the knife. I see myself running." "Do you ever get scared?" "Yes," she said, "but I don't stay scared." He looked up at her and smiled. "You're strong." Chiamaka smiled back. "So are you." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the roofs, Chiamaka sat with Auntie Ronk. "You've changed the world," the older woman said. "I just told the truth," Chiamaka replied. And the truth burned down a mansion. Chiamaka looked into the sky. "Maybe it's time I write my story." Auntie Ronk laughed. "You've been writing it with your life. But yes, maybe it's time to put it in a book." Chiamaka nodded. "Not just about what happened, but about what it felt like. About what silence does. About how we must listen to girls before it's too late." Months later, her book came out. The Girl Who Walked Through Fire. It became a bestseller. Not because it was fancy, but because it was honest. Because it carried a smell people had tried to ignore for too long. The smell of greed, of power without mercy, but also the smell of courage. Because courage, too, leaves a mark. Chiamaka stood at the launch event, holding a copy of her book. A girl walked up to her. She was about 10. Skinny. Big eyes. She looked up and said, "I read your story. I was scared too. But now I'm not." Chiamaka bent down and hugged her. "You're braver than you know," she whispered. The girl smiled. "When I grow up, I want to be like you." "No," Chiamaka said gently. "When you grow up, be even better." And so, the poor girl who married a 50-year-old man with a deadly smell, the one who nearly became his next sacrifice, became something greater. She became a voice, a light, a door for others to walk through. She never forgot where she came from, never forgot the fire, but she let it shape her, not break her. And in the end, when the world spoke her name, it wasn't because of fear. It was because of freedom. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe. Here is another interesting story to watch. Click to watch now.